playing the slot machines, and you'll never hit the jackpot if you stop. But at the same time, you just got to keep putting in, keep pulling that trigger. And, you might make a small win and you're like, woohoo, yes, I got a small gig, or, I've gotten a small little client or whatever, and that'll keep me going. So we'll go back and we'll sit at the slot machine. Oh, I hit a bigger one. Yeah, yeah. Oh, we got another couple of smaller ones. Yeah, yeah. But you'll never hit that jackpot if you just give up and stop. And it's depressingly true, I think. It's sometimes you've just got to keep grinding. You got to keep pushing.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Hey, yeah, doing well, man. How are you?
So you're in Perth. The time
Yes.
difference is pretty crazy. So I really appreciate you jumping on and doing this, man.
No worries. It's probably more inconvenient for you because it's nighttime and my day's just started, so I'm good to go.
As Michael Stott said, I am a night owl and an early bird. So I have worms. There's another part of that quote that he says, but anyways. So we'll kind of start out with you explaining just kind of more of what you do.
Sure.
And why you do it.
Yeah. So I'm a music producer, and composer. So the short answer is I make music, basically. But the long answer is I am a cinematic music producer and composer. I started out as a composer of film and TV, so making music that you would typically hear in the background of films and TV and stuff, all that big cinematic epic stuff. And yeah, in the last probably year and a half, I've transitioned more into producing songs, which it's a little bit different style, I guess. And yeah, so I'm a cinematic pop producer. It's kind of like what you would think of if you heard like a cinematic track, as in you've got all the epic strings and horns and big percussion and stuff, and then you mix that with like a pop track, and that you've got the typical structure of verse chorus and vocals with it. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do now. I'm a music producer and composer. I am currently working on a video game as well, so that's a bit more of my composing side, which is a lot of fun. But also just working with a whole bunch of different artists to create cinematic tracks, stuff that you like hear in trailers and promos and stuff like that. Yeah. And why do I do it? Because I'm crazy. No, I just love music. I love listening. I love creating. Yeah, music is just a massive part of my life. So personally, I feel I've been given a gift in music, and so I just want to be able to use that gift and further do that, I guess. Yeah, music is what I want to be doing. It's what I am doing, and I honestly couldn't think of me doing anything else. So that is why I do music.
When did you feel like you first found your passion for music?
Probably after high school. I had always been into music through high school, so I'm a pianist by trade. So I'd learnt piano in primary school, classically, and then through high school, kind of gave up the classical side, but kept playing piano. It was just self-taught, learning YouTube videos, learning the classic Coldplay and Muse and all that songs through YouTube. So I've always been interested in music. But after high school is probably when I really actually decided, what, I want to actually make my own music. So yeah, pretty much straight out of high school, 2010. I remember actually my 18th birthday, I got my first MIDI controller, which is like a keyboard that you can plug into your computer, and got some software and stuff. And basically ever since then, I've just been creating. I studied songwriting and performance in 2012, I think it was, as well, which was a good little boost into that music creation scene. Yeah, and then 2015 is when I was like, all right, I'm going to take this seriously. I'd had some job shifts and stuff, and I'd moved into a job that was full week but part-time hours, so I had time in the afternoon, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get some space. I actually stole one of the rooms from church and turned that into my studio. And so I'd go from working in the cafe at church, and I'd just go up to the back room, turn it, do some music for the rest of the day until either Beck had finished work or I'd finished for the day, and then go home. So yeah, 2015, that's when that whole shift changed, and so that's when I really decided, actually, yeah, I'm going to focus and I'm going to start doing some proper music and see where I can take this as a job, I guess, and income. So yeah, 8 years officially.
Yeah, I remember. I can picture what your music studio looked like.
Yeah.
When I think it was 2017, I came. I remember because it was tucked in the back.
Yep. Up the back dungeon.
Yeah, it was a cool setup though. So I know that you recently transitioned to full time doing music production. How was that shift, and how have you kind of found the newfound time that you have? Like, how has that increased your music production?
Yeah. So recently went full time. It was kind of, it was very much a God moment in that, like, a lot of things just lined up perfectly for me to be able to do it. So yeah, obviously Beck got an extra day at work, my wife, so she was able to earn more money, and she was already earning more than me anyway, but now she's really earning more than me. So that was like a good, not fallback, but a good baseline that we're like, okay, we're going to be earning this much. That's good. We will be okay. But also it was right around tax time, so we had tax returns and stuff. So we got a nice little chunk of money from that, and then some other money came in as well. And then also I had a heap of leave owing to me from my previous job. So when I resigned, obviously that was owing to me, so that all got paid out as well. So basically within the space of like a month, we were, provided a pretty decent amount of money to kind of sit on whilst I worked this out and stuff. So we set aside a time limit, which is about 10 weeks, which was last week. And we said, I'm going to smash out music, and we're going to see, and I'm going to figure out how we can do this and how I can actually, provide income as well, obviously, because we need to live and we have a mortgage to pay for. So, yeah, it's been good. It's not quite there yet, but also it's an interesting job because it's one of those creative, you get paid when you finish the work sort of thing, and so the income, whilst it is good, it's very sporadic. It's not as consistent, so it's a little bit, I guess, stressful. I'm not much of a stressor, but Beck, my wife, obviously is a little bit more of a stressor. So she's a little bit more concerned about it. But we're doing all right, and we're surviving. And obviously the video game job I've got, that's a pretty decent paying one. So that's nice. It's a good, consistent income. What was the other question? Oh, yeah, productivity. I mean, yeah, so with the full-time, it's funny because, like, I've kind of previously, my days for doing music was just Tuesday morning and Thursday. And so before I went full time, that was the time I had to do music. I could have done it outside of that, but I chose not to. So those hours were the time I had to do music. So I would try and squeeze in my social media content because I'm an artist. I'm trying to promote that. I would squeeze in any admin I had to do, all the music production and everything else into those, that day and a half. Whereas now I've got essentially 3 full-time days and a half day to do all this music. And it's not that I've slowed down, but it's a bit more relaxed, which has actually increased my productivity, I think, in that, I'm not freaking out and thinking I've got to get all this done today because that's the only day I have to do it until next week. It's, I can take my time on this project, or I can sit down for an extra 3 hours today working out content, social media content, because I've got time now. So it's a lot less stressful. I try not to tell Beck too much that I'm slower because obviously that doesn't sound good. But yeah, for lack of a better word, like I'm working at a more efficient but slower pace, I think. If that makes sense.
There's definitely a difference between rushing and then being able to, like you said, slow down. It's almost more effective work.
Exactly.
Because I'm kind of in the same solopreneur era, and it's, if I have extra time to do the admin work, that's awesome, because then it's more dedicated time to do the content creation and reach out and figuring out the jobs, whatever it is. And yeah, the rushing, while you do get work done, it's not always the best, or you don't get as much done as you'd like because you only have that tight window.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's definitely worked out better, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I know that, well, first question before I ask that question, what is kind of your creative mode like when you think of what you're putting out into the ether, into the world? Like, what is the stance that you want to take as far as the undertones of what you put out? Like, is there a message behind everything? Is it different for each production you make? How do you kind of like put yourself in what you produce?
That's a good question, and it's actually something I'm still trying to figure out, I think. It's funny because one of the things I'm trying to figure out is the whole social media thing, and promoting myself as an artist, which is hard because I think there's something like 83,000 songs every day released to Spotify, sort of thing. So what are you doing to stand out, and how are you different from that? 83,000, 85, whatever it is, stupid number. Yeah, I think it's something I'm still trying to figure out. Being a cinematic composer and producer, I'm more in that cinematic side of things, which there isn't as much of as the typical pop, the indie pop, electro pop stuff that's pretty well top in the charts these days. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit different, but also I don't know. It is a really tough question, and something I'm still trying to figure out. Trying to inject, like, as a Christian, trying to inject that into it, whatever that looks like. Generally the projects I'm working on, I'm not trying to work on anything that's crude or horrible lyrics and stuff, and it's generally messages that are uplifting and whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Something I'm still working on, I think, that one. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, my other question that I saved for now was, given the current culture feels like an anxiety-driven, hopeless culture, with that kind of uplifting tone, are there other kind of undertones that you would like to have people feel when they listen to your produced music?
Yeah, I think, definitely that hope, that joy. Some of the stuff I work on, given the nature of promos and trailers, is quite epic and sometimes dark sounding. But I think some of the more cinematic stuff, like one of my recent tracks, it's called "Say Everything." It is about basically what would you have said if you had one last chance, before you'd lost someone, which is quite it's probably one of my more emotional and impactful songs of late. It's that kind of aspect. We're not promised tomorrow, and you've probably seen some of my social posts about it. We're not promised tomorrow. Don't let the sun go down, angry and stuff, and say what you need to say, and tell those you love them now, because we're not guaranteed the next minute. So I think stuff like that, I think, is what I'd love people to be able to get out of it, and just the peace and love of God somehow in the music, whether that's through the lyrics or just the feeling of the songs, or whether it's even just interacting and watching my stuff on social medias, Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. Still trying to figure all that stuff out, but hopefully they're getting an aspect of that in what they're watching, and my funniness, because I'm a funny guy. Hopefully.
Yeah, I definitely understand and feel the almost the tension between how do I show myself authentically in this area where, especially social media, I feel a tension of balancing still being professional and getting my point across, but also being that like silly, funny, and hoping that they somehow show myself. Yeah, there's definitely a fine balance. And it's almost like a dance of still with this podcast with me, like episode 1, I probably sound completely different than I do in episode 34, which is what this is. Because I've learned and I've kind of developed and grown and like become more authentic and just really grown into the role and the responsibility, as opposed to I could do a dance today, or like, should I be serious today? I don't know. It's more just letting it out as it comes.
Yeah. I think if you go through my TikTok, if there's ever me doing some sort of meme or filter, you get those classic like game filters and whatever. If you ever see me doing that, it's because I had no idea what to post that day, and so I just went with a filter.
Content is content.
Otherwise, yeah, I mean, exactly, and that's the biggest thing, is consistency. So but yeah, it's social media is a wild beast.
Yeah, could you give more of the meaning behind the Say Anything song? Like, what inspired that song? Obviously, you kind of talked about it a little there, but could you tease that out a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because most of the songs I'm working on, I'm not a writer personally. Like lyrics, I could not write to save my life. So because I'm a producer, so I'm generally the one making the music bed, and this one started out. I have a friend who is a writer. She's over in Sydney, who I've met through doing all this music stuff and collaborating and whatnot. So a lot of the songs that I've released are written by her. And yeah, it was just so yeah, a lot of the stuff in terms of the meaning behind it for me is always very different, because I wasn't the one writing the song. But I can always, translate it into my life. So as I was mentioning, we're not promised tomorrow. The amount of times we'd, be yelling at our kids or whatever, and that be the last thing we said to them or whatever before, they go off to kindy or go off to wherever, and then you're left with that being the last thing you said. You don't really want that, because we're not promised anything. So but yeah, I think she was inspired. I can't remember what she was inspired by, but also she had a friend who'd lost her husband quite unexpectedly, I think. And so it was just about that whole being taken away unexpectedly, and now not being able to say I love you, and what you really meant to me, and hoping that the last things we did say to those we lost were good things, and were things from a place of love. And I think it was it's that kind of message of don't leave the bad things as the last things said. I think. But yeah, it's fun because most of the songs I'm working on, they're not written by me lyrically, so it's always an interesting one trying to convey what the songs mean when I'm not the one specifically writing them. But yeah,
the idea, like your role, I think, is maybe not more important than the lyrics, but being the producer is crucial, because you are trying to tease out all of the feelings and then put it into this lyrical and like musical form to then make the lyrics come to life, because written words are just a piece of paper and they don't mean anything. Well, you provide that reverberation of music in the background that brings them to life.
Yeah. No, yeah, and yeah, definitely trying to convey that emotion of, you know, this is a really not a happy sad, but it is kind of a happy sad song, so it kind of, you know, conveys that through the tone and the music and the instruments used and stuff. So yeah, it's one to tug at the heartstrings of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's an honest song. You know, it conveys the idea, and like personally for me, like about a year ago, like I lost my older brother, and the idea of, yeah, there's so many things that you wish you could say, and it's not that you left it wrong in the past, or there's all these thoughts that come through your head of, oh, I wish I would have done this or done that, but it's an honest song of just conveying the emotions that you feel and the thoughts you have after something tragic happens. And it's, I remember thinking that it's not the issue that they're not here anymore. It's the issue that the future plans that you had thought out with them can no longer come to fruition.
Yeah.
And I mean, the song that you put out, Say Anything, like, I mean, it touched me because it really is like, whoa, like that is impactful, because it's the words totally connect and the music behind it really brings it to life. So coming from a personal experience, I really appreciated you actually producing that song.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite songs, even still, that I produced. I think the simplicity of it all as well is not like big and epic and cinematic like most of the other tracks I've done. But it's just, it's simple, it's emotional. It does the job it needs to do to really, and the vocals, you know, the guy we got to sing that one, he did a great job in the layers and everything he brought to that. So yeah, I think every part of it it does its job, which is good. And I'm glad it resonates with you. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. You know, the songs need to resonate with people. So you know, even if it's only resonating with one person, I've done my job.
Dude, you got one. You have a confirmed
hit.
Case here.
Confirmed hit.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, you're versatile. I get it. You got cinematic, you got other stuff. You're versatile.
Yeah.
You can cross your arms with a smug look. I get it. But you're versatile. I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's still, you know, it's still got that cinematic taste to it. And that's one of the things I love doing as well with the production. Being a composer in that cinematic background is just injecting that cinematic stuff into things. Like one of the tracks I released was a hip hop track, but it has that cinematic kind of element to it as well. Say Everything's a bit more of that ballad track, but it's still got the cinematic strings and the cinematic piano in it. I think just injecting cinematic into everything. I've done a couple of rock tracks that have cinematic. Probably won't be releasing them though, but yeah, it's just I just love cinematic. Injecting that into everything I do.
I mean, you're putting you in everything. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and that's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah. This next question is it's a real barn burner for sure. It's going to get you. What is the most enjoyable part of your job?
Previously, I would have said just being able to create music. But in the last year and half since I started producing, I've been collaborating a lot more with other artists and writers and stuff, as I said. So that is definitely actually probably one of the most enjoyable parts, is working with other people to create these songs. I think it's just so cool. I mean, the writer friend I'm working with, she will sometimes send vocal ideas, but for the most part, I'm generally just writing the melody myself. And so for a majority of the life of the track, it'll be me singing a rough demo idea we'll then send it off to a singer, and, you know, getting those vocal parts back and like hearing the full realization of what the track will sound like. I was like, oh man, that is so cool. So yeah, I think the funnest, best part of this job is collaborating with other people and being able to like yeah, just work with other people and create something together. I think, yeah, that is.
I heard that the most impactful part of anything you do, especially as an entrepreneur, is when you get to bring others along with you on the journey.
Yeah.
And the idea of collaboration where it's like, you could do this on your own and try to grind it out, but
Yeah.
it's so much more fulfilling and fun
Oh yeah.
and just cool when you get to work with other people.
Yeah. I mean, my musical career has skyrocketed in terms of success, productivity, and quality, and even quantity of songs that I'm putting out purely as soon as I started collaborating. I think just the quality and quantity of songs I'm putting out, yeah, it's just gone tenfold once I started bringing other people in on it. I think it's definitely one of the best things you could do, especially as a music in the music career. I think it's one of the best things you could do as a musician, an artist, to start working with other people. And even like, I was always real reluctant to work with other composers, for example, and even producers, because I was kind of like, well, I can do that. Why would I work with somebody who can do the same thing as me? But once I got over that and worked with even other producers and composers, yeah, some of those songs were just like, they just bring a completely different taste to it. Like you're saying, I bring that cinematic, touch to everything I do. They bring whatever their niche is or whatever their specialty is to those kind of songs. And yeah, it just, you listen to some of the stuff they bring and they're like, oh man, that's sick. Actually, yeah, that's really cool. Let's leave that in. Or actually, I like your bit better than mine. Let's do that instead, sort of thing. So yeah, collaboration is just, it's 10 out of 10 would recommend.
It's always interesting whenever you collaborate with other people because it can be so easy for me to get in the zero zone and think that what I'm doing isn't very good or what I'm doing, oh, this could always be better. And you collaborate with people or you get their opinion and it's almost always, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Or yeah, you could tweak that. Like this isn't too bad. And it just really uplifts your spirit because you realize that it's not just you, but people are actually going to enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I can tend to beat myself up a little bit or be that perfectionist to make sure it's perfect when really if it's 70% there, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had a song just recently I'd worked on ages ago, and it's pretty early in production stage, and it's all right, but it's not anything crazy in my opinion. It's not amazing. But anyway, I sent it off to a vocalist to see if she'd be interested in writing on it, and she said, "This is beautiful. I'd love to. I can hear it. I can see it going this way and going big and epic, or I can see it going this real stripped back version as well." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I'm glad you like it. Let's do it." So yeah, you definitely get a good echo chamber from people working with other people.
What is the coolest thing you've ever done within the music production space thus far?
That would probably be 3 weeks ago when I did. I don't know if you saw on my socials, but are you familiar with Eskimo Joe, the band?
I have heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're a pretty big Perth band. They've got some pretty solid rock tracks. If you search up like pub classics, guaranteed they'll have a song or two in there. But anyway, the lead singer, his wife, a visual artist from Melbourne, and a technologist, which I had no idea was a thing until then. Technologist from Melbourne. They came together and created this project where basically they get a visual artist, a digital artist, or sorry, like a visual artist, an animator, a music artist, and a producer together in the room, and they create a piece of digital artwork, which basically is a 1.5-minute, 2-minute loop, and it's just music and a visual that's looping around and doing something really cool. And then it's sold as an NFT, which I don't know if you're familiar with NFTs much, but a weird world, but pretty cool. So anyway, they ran this project for a couple weeks ago, and I was chosen as a producer to be a part of that. So for 3 days, I got to work with 3 different groups, and we created 3 pieces of artwork where the music I got to inject some cinematic into again, and collaborating in person with another artist to create some music, and putting that to a piece of visual art, and that was very cool. That was a lot of fun. It was exhausting, but so much fun.
Did you find yourself on different days being more excited? Was there a certain one of the 3 projects that you were like, this is it? Or was there one that you were like, that was fine?
Yeah, the the first 2 were awesome. First one was like straight up cinematic pop, so that was like, it was right in my realm. I was working with another composer, and she had a really great voice, and so we worked on a pretty typical my style cinematic pop track. So that was awesome. Second day, we're working with this rock artist, so she's solid voice, just straight up rock guitar sort of thing. So we worked on a pretty epic rock track, which again I injected my cinematic touch into, so it's quite cinematic sounding. And the third day, I was working with another composer, but she's quite experimental, quite an experimental composer. So she, we went pretty wild and sound designy with that one. That was very different and not as much my style, but I actually really enjoyed what ended up with that one. I think all 3, they were all awesome. They're in their own right and in their own different way. I think I don't know that I had any that I liked less of or more of. And even in working with the different people, it was such a wild experience working with different people and different opinions and different visions and stuff, and bringing that all to life and all into one piece. It was very cool.
So being an entrepreneur, if that's what you would even call yourself, what is the balance between family and your job? We kind of talked about it a little bit before we even jumped on here, but the idea of being a husband and a father and a son and a friend, sometimes the entrepreneur grind can be daunting. So how do you balance that? Do you balance it? Do you believe in balance? Because some people don't. Like, give me your kind of thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely need balance. Whether I do that very well is a different question. It's I think it's something I probably do struggle with, given that my passion for music, and not just for creating music, but for listening to music. I'm always like, if there's music in the background, I'm always like, listening to it, thinking, oh, how did they do that, or what did they do with that one? I find it, I think, hard to switch off in that aspect. So that's something I'm still trying to get better at, especially when I'm with the family and stuff, just switching off to work and music and all that, all the business thoughts and entrepreneurship, as you said, and just focus on what's in front of me and my family. So it's definitely something I'm getting better at. It's definitely something I need a balance. I need to be able to switch off. I
It's
think
so hard though, because like your entrepreneurship is you.
Yeah,
like that's the difference between the entrepreneur space and like working for someone. It's you. So it's pretty hard to switch that off.
Yeah, and it's made hard in that most of the people I'm working with are in the States as well, so they're on the the opposite end of my time zone. I'm getting ready for bed and they're getting up ready to work, so quite often a lot of the conversations are in the morning or in the night time, late afternoon, which is when my family are also there, so it's hard to try and find that balance, but we're getting there. I think you could probably ask Beck the same question. She'd probably have a completely different answer.
Yeah, it would be funny if you didn't tell the next person in the States that you were in Australia. You just were like, yeah, I'll work for you. They're like, man, Mike is he's an all-nighter. He's a grinder.
Yeah.
I just sleep and he's up. He's grinding.
Yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like you bring your family, your kids into this kind of entrepreneurship space? I know you posted some videos with your kids and family, but what extent does that kind of go with?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, I'm always sharing the tracks I'm working on with Beck. and she's letting me know what she thinks, and the boys are quite often listening to it and stuff as well, and they'll tell me their thoughts as well. Very much unfiltered, as toddlers are. And yeah, in the social media stuff, I mean, a lot of social media is about sharing yourself, not necessarily about sharing your music. People care about you, not necessarily your music. Or at least, that's a lot of what I'm reading is, be yourself and the music will come, sort of thing. So yeah, every now and then I'm definitely trying to include, certainly the boys. Beck's not as much of a fan of being on the camera as much. Yeah, I think, and I like to include them in some things every now and then if it's relevant. I'm not just going to sit there pushing them because they're cute and they'll get views, but it needs to be relevant, sort of thing. Yeah, but yeah, I do try and include them a bit.
So this is a little bit of a shift away from the music production side, but being a father, what are the important life skills that you're teaching your kids right now?
Life skills. Yeah. I mean, given the 2.5 and 4.5, they are very emotionally unstable, is probably how I would put it. I mean, as we were talking before, they can go from wanting French toast to all of a sudden it's a meltdown because you didn't cut it the right way or whatever. So yeah, I think just talking conversationally is one of the biggest things. We try and use your words, don't just scream and carry on and whinge and blah blah blah, but stop, breathe, use your words, let's talk. It's always easier said than done with them, but yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things we try and always reiterate. And manners, flipping heck, they are shocking. I want this, I want that. Like, can I please have this? Can I? Yeah, it's those are probably the two biggest ones I think we're trying to teach them. Yeah.
I found personally, I did not think through a ton of what parenting would look like. And my wife really did. Do you find that Beck was the one that kind of steered those, hey, let's talk to the kids like this conversations? Or is that more how you grew up? Or what kind of started that more reflective parenting as opposed to the authoritative, like, hey, stop that parenting?
Yeah. I think it was mutual. I think we both came to an agreement at the start of like, this is how we want to do things. We want to, I mean, the current, I feel like it's the current age as well, not age as in times. Our parents probably grew up in that more authoritarian style parenting, telling us how it is and whatnot. Whereas these days, I think, I don't know whether it's just the culture or more research, blah, 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 whatever it is, but, it's more about that conversation, getting down on that level. I think it definitely works a lot better, from experience. When I'm yelling at Lucas, he's a lot less responsive and a lot more volatile than he is when I'm, getting down on his level and having a conversation with him. There's definitely evidence there that the gentle parenting as such is works better. Obviously, there comes a time where you need to be a bit more authoritative in what you're telling them to do. But yeah, I think from the beginning, I think Beck and I were both on the same level of we wanted to be a bit more conversational and gentle parenting and not yelling at our kids and stuff. I think, yeah, I think both our parents, were I mean, maybe not, not in a bad way. It's just, I guess that's just how they did it. And I mean, we both turned out all right, but we wanted to do things a little bit differently than both our parents. So yeah, I think from the beginning we were both pretty well on the same page, which is good. Yeah, it's a good way to go into parenting.
Yeah, I hear the teaching of traits and like maybe not normalized like cultural responses, but getting them to be like a genuinely caring person is more important than, because as parents it can be really easy to like take your own emotions and lash them out in the moment.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if I ever get mad at my kids, it's not because of what they did.
No.
It's because of something I have resolved, or like I just can't control my own emotions.
Yeah.
So it's that idea of teaching them, I'm not going to yell at you, but we are going to learn respect.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to get down on your level because conversation and talking through things is more important than me just saying, go to your room or go get in your crib. I don't want to hear you anymore.
Yeah.
And if we turned out all right, then just think about how our kids are going to turn out. Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the hope.
not to match our parents.
Yeah.
Our parents are great. We love them.
Yeah, we do.
But yeah, there is that idea of that. And this draws me to this video I saw where it was kind of a funny video. It's like a mom, her kid was screaming, and she said, the trick is if you whisper to your kids, they're automatically going to be confused and then whisper back. And she like did it with her son, and her son was like, I don't want to do that. And then she like said it in a normal voice. He was like, I don't want to do that. And she like said, I don't want to do it either. And he was like, I don't want to do that. And just like whispered it, and it just completely de-escalated the situation.
Yeah.
And it was funny because he was like, wait, you're not matching me. Why aren't you matching me?
Yeah.
And so you're kind of modeling how the kids can process their emotions, because they are, like you said, I mean, they're sponges. They listen to everything. They repeat everything. They, even when they're across the house and you say, oh gosh, they now have picked up on that because somehow they heard you say the word that you're like, please don't say that.
Yeah.
And so
the
modeling is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's, as you said before, it's trying to, they are sponges. And so trying to, teach them how we react to them is how they're going to react to other kids at school, how they're going to react to friends, how they're going to react to teachers and stuff like that. So trying to model that more conversational, gentle responses. I mean, they're kids. They're still figuring out how to regulate their emotions. Heck, we're still trying to figure out how to regulate our emotions. But you're trying to, and just showing that grace as well. I think, they are just 2.5 and 4.5. So, they're still working out the world, giving them a little bit of grace and trying to, help them figure it out and help them work it out themselves. I think is good.
Yeah, it's so easy to get in my lens of the world.
Yeah.
Because like I said, whenever I get frustrated, it's because they're probably not doing what I would like them to do. And that's just my lens of looking at it. And I'm not getting in their head and thinking, well, he probably didn't even think about doing that because he's never done it before.
Yeah.
So I like that, taking that learning mindset as opposed to the, I want you to already know it, so you should already know it type of mindset. Yeah. And I'm terrible at doing that, and I have to learn that too. But 2.5 years old, I'm expecting him. He needs to start paying rent. Honestly.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't know why.
Yeah,
but
get a job.
I'll give him till 3.
Yeah,
I'll give him till 3.
It's only fair.
So when you think about you 10 years ago, what would be a few pieces of life advice you'd give yourself 10 years ago?
10 years ago. Keep going. Don't it's a good one. As in like music, not life. Keep pushing, I think is a good one. Maybe even like collaborate earlier. I think if I had have started collaborating early, a lot earlier, I probably would have been a little bit further than I am now. Just keep pushing, don't give up. And, set your expectations up front, I think, as well. There's been a couple of times in my work in music and stuff where I've been working with other artists, and we get to the end of the project where we start talking about, splits and the rights to the song, blah, blah, blah. And, the expectations there are very much not what I was expecting. And, in my opinion, I very much lost out on a couple of songs that I've worked on just because I wasn't clear up front, and so I think, but even in life, I think marriage and kids and all that, just set your expectations up front. This is what I'm expecting. That way, you're not getting to the end of the day grumpy or whatever because your expectations weren't met, even though the other person has no idea what they even were. They've got their own expectations of what the day was going to look like and stuff like that. So I think, clear communication and getting those expectations out up front, ready to go, so that nobody is disappointed by the end of it.
I heard a quote, and the quote went, "The only way you can be disappointed is if your expectations of reality didn't come true." So I like that idea of clear communication and expectation is so important because we need to make sure that we're getting what we want. Obviously, hoping that it's not selfish, but we're getting what we want, and we're also giving the amount that we want as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do want to give more than what the other person is willing to receive, and that can also disappoint me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's always. In the music world, I've generally always been, for the most part, just equal splits across the board, sort of thing. We each have worked on this song. We each own it equally, blah, blah, blah. And there's been a couple of times where it's like they've gone a bit more of the traditional route of music ownership, in terms like, back in the day, it was, whoever the producer was owns the music, is a bit of the music itself, but, the lyrics and blah, blah, blah. We wrote the lyrics, so we own the writer's share of it and stuff, and you don't get any of that because you didn't write the lyrics, which is the song, even though the song is, anyway. I think if I was up front from the beginning, and in fairness, one of the bigger ones I lost out on was early on in my collaboration career, so I was still learning all that stuff and figuring out what all that stuff even was. So that is on me. But yes, expectations.
So when you think about the expectations, that collaborative giving that you kind of talk about, and then the resilience of keep going and keep pushing, how do you take those traits and then instill those in your kids?
Yeah, I mean, it's collaborations, working with other people, and if you get stuck doing something, asking for help, that's one thing Lucas always struggles with. He gets really frustrated and grumpy when he can't do something, and I'm like, just what do you do when you get stuck and you can't do it? And, sheepishly says, ask for help, blah, blah, blah. So, trying to instill that collaboration isn't a bad thing. Just because you can't, do something doesn't mean that you're a failure or anything like that. It just means you might need some help, and that's not a bad thing at all. And in fact, sometimes that can make whatever you're working on even better than what you could do on your own. So, yeah, just the asking for help and collaboration. Yeah, and building resilience. Just because you can't do something doesn't mean you're a failure. Keep going. Ask for help, or even just keep pushing through and seeing if you can do it yourself. I think those are two pretty good ways of implementing that in your child's life, I guess.
Yeah, I watch a lot of Facebook Reels, and one of them, this guy comes up quite a bit, and he mentions that if you wanted to build resilience, or you were God and you wanted to build like this strong character, and he asked, like, what would you put them through to build the like strength and the courage and the resilience? And he talks about you'd put him through the situations that would build that resilience and courage. And oftentimes those aren't situations that are comfortable. They're not situations that we like want to go through. And I heard that when you said, just because you mess up, it doesn't mean you're a failure.
Yeah.
Because so often it's like the intuitive human mind that says, I can't figure this out, or I can't do this, therefore I am the issue.
Yeah.
Really, if we can train that response to be, now I need help, then that just like completely changes the game.
Yeah.
So, and I struggle with that too. Like, I mean, Lucas is 4.5, Samuel's 2.5. And I'm like, man, how do I teach a 2.5-year-old how to learn to ask for help? That is almost, might be the most impossible task in the whole world. I'm not sure, but it's, help putting them in situations that are obviously safe and within boundaries, but giving them the chance to like practice it. That's kind of how I've thought about how do I help him build these certain traits that are going to help him in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, trying to teach
So
Ben.
for you, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, trying to teach Benj. He barely even remembers, we tell him what we're doing for the day, and then 2 minutes later, he's asking, what are we doing today? And you're like, far out. How do I teach him to ask for help the next 400 times he gets stuck?
Yeah, I resonate with that. It was probably a week ago. We told Samuel, like, hey, we're gonna go to the park today. And he got excited, like, oh, we're gonna go to the park. And then it was like an hour later, it was like we hadn't even told him. We're like, hey, are you ready to go to the park? He's like, oh, the park. We're going to the park. And I was like, yeah, we're still going to the park. That's where we're going. It was just so funny how, like, yeah, you're right. The attention span and the memory isn't quite there yet, which makes it much more difficult to really instill, which is why we go back to the modeling.
Yeah. Literally yesterday we're in the car, and it's a 20-minute trip dropping Beck and Lucas off. And Benj was hanging out with me for the day, so we told him, Beck's going to work, Mummy's going to work, and Lucas is going to kindy, and you're hanging out with Daddy for the day. 5 minutes later, I want to go to Grandma's. It's like, no, you're Beck, Mummy's going to work, Lucas is going to kindy, you're hanging out with me for the day. And 20 minutes later, can I go to Grandma? No. Yeah. It's probably a good 6-7 times or something that he asked, and we had to keep telling him, no, you're staying with Daddy. That's ridiculous.
That's good. Yeah, or I mean, there is always the off chance that he just doesn't want to hang out with you. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah, he's probably sick of me.
He's playing it off as that I don't remember, but
yeah, he just prefers Grandma.
Well, that's all the questions I had for you. Do you have any parting thoughts, or do you have any questions for me? I'll take with that what you will.
I'll take it with that what you will. Nah, I mean, it's been good. It's been fun to chat. How are you finding this whole entrepreneurship thing going?
It's the most disheartening hope I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
It's the hope that every day it's I'm just going to get up and grind. Yep. And you do it and you continue on. But then it's always I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where I want to be. And that's kind of that. I feel like a hamster on a wheel chasing the cheese that's in front of me of I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And eventually you do reach that cheese, that goal. But the idea of entrepreneurship is you're always going to have another goal behind it, always going to have another vision. So even as I've kind of inched towards certain goals or hit certain goals, it's always that feeling of, haven't made it yet. Haven't done it yet. Yeah. And so I call that disheartened hope, and that could be a little bit of a pessimistic view, but it's a motivator for me. So it's been interesting because I'm kind of in the boat that you were in previously, where there's the other job and there's the windows that I get to actually work on it. And the windows, if you want to make them longer, that means you don't sleep.
Yeah.
And so it's operating on, all right, how much sleep do I need tonight? Or do I need to wake up earlier? Or do I need to spend my lunch hour doing something? So it's balancing the time, because I have pretty protected family time. That was one thing that I was certainly not going to give up is it's hours of 5 and 7 or 4 and 7, depending on the day. But the protected family time. And outside of that, it's that rush grind.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been not letting all the shiny toys distract you. Yeah. I feel in entrepreneurship, there's so many hey, get rich quick, or do this program and you'll make $10,000, or join this software. Classics. It'll be great.
Yeah.
And it's balancing all right, just stay focused on what I want to be doing and what the goal is. And eventually you'll inch towards where you want to be. So, obviously the ultimate goal is to be doing stuff like this, other things with my I have a coaching business, other things
Yep.
like that, more full time.
Yep.
But currently, it's like, man, I made it through Thursday. Let's go. All right, tomorrow's Friday. Let's make it through Friday. It's just that trying to be present focused is like
Yeah.
the biggest thing for me currently.
Yeah, it's a tough one, especially those early stages, just trying to push and grind, and you really do feel like you're going nowhere, or you're snailing towards your goal. But it's just one of those things you got to push through, unfortunately. And sometimes you'll get to one day and all of a sudden everything just works out, or sometimes you'll just be going forever. It's one of those things. It's funny, what I was chatting with a producer here one time, and he was talking to me about music production and doing this sort of things. Like, it's like playing the slot machines, and you'll never hit the jackpot if you stop. But at the same time, you just got to keep putting in, keep pulling that trigger, and you might make a small win, and you're like, "Woohoo! Yes, I got a small gig, or I've gotten a small little client or whatever, and that'll keep me going. So we'll go back and we'll sit at the slot machine. Oh, I hit a bigger one. Yeah. Oh, we got another couple of smaller ones. Yeah. But you'll never hit that jackpot if you just give up and stop. And it's depressingly true. I think it's sometimes you've just got to keep grinding. You got to keep pushing it. Sometimes you have to put a bit of money into it, which I'm finding more and more lately. Sometimes you actually have to spend a bit of money to get a bit of money back, and it's not a bad thing by any means. And sometimes it's actually what takes you to get to that next level, is just putting a little bit of income into, maybe some promotion or some advertising or whatever. But yeah, I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah. Mark Cuban said something similar. He said, you only have to be right once. You can have 100 ideas.
Yeah.
But you only have to be right once.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's the idea of, as long as you have the vision and the hope, eventually you'll find yourself somewhere down the road where it worked out in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you hold on to. But yeah, I get that. The whole, it's only going to be as good of an investment as you put in. And time is a huge investment of that. But there is the advertising dollars, trying to get some sort of ROI on those advertising dollars. When it's like, I'm relatively unknown, so why should people even trust me? So you got to figure out, how am I going to build trust with people? How do I get people? Now I got to figure out what is a good thumbnail. I don't even know what this is. So you're like learning on the fly, just trying to figure out what people would want to draw them in.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest piece to that is that authenticity, because the content I put out, the ones that have gotten the most traction or likes, which isn't a ton, but the ones that have gotten the most interaction and engagement have been the ones where I've just been like, record on, speak from the heart, record off.
Yeah.
That's it. Like the less scripted ones have gotten the more engagement. So finding those authentic moments is really what I'm trying to do right now. Is like, all right, what am I feeling right now? How can I share that in a coherent way to help someone else?
Yeah, that's one thing I've been trying to figure out as well, especially with the music production, is just how I can, share from, I guess, my heart as well with it. Not just sharing, here's a cool song I'm working on, check it out, but here's something that excites me about it, or here's something that it's hard trying to figure that out. But yeah, I think finding stuff that you genuinely care about, and it's not just some scripted thing, that's a big one. I think people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So yeah, it's a good one. That was one of the
dropping quote bombs tonight.
Yeah,
I guess it's today for you. I mean, you're already on a completely different calendar day. You're already
I'm
on
ahead
Friday,
of the times, man. Get on my level.
I haven't even made it to Friday. Shoot.
Get over here. Yeah, when are you coming to Australia? Yeah, but no, it's good. I think just being genuine, being yourself is a big one. People want to see you, not just some coach telling them what they already know or what they don't want to what they don't want to hear mentally, but they need to hear in their heart. I mean, it's once you start talking from the heart that you can hit their heart. If you're just talking from the brain, you'll just hit their brain. They'll be like, yeah, I already know that, or I don't really want to know that.
Yeah, I read that, and I read it, but it's pretty known fact in marketing that humans will often make purchase decisions based on emotion, and then they justify it later with their thoughts or like cognitions.
Yep.
So yeah, it's that idea of how can I like pull you in or get you to like feel something, and then provide you that like content to really connect the heart and the mind. And as a counselor, I feel pretty good at that. When it comes to creating content, it's like, all right, this is pretty stale because I'm not talking to someone. I don't know anything about their story. So how do I like do the same thing, but in content?
Yeah.
And it's a learning process.
It is.
So
yeah, I think, if you getting used to talking to a camera is it's a tough one. I am fortunate enough that I've actually had a pretty decent amount of experience previously, so it's not natural, but it's a little bit more natural maybe. But just like talking to the camera like it was a person who you're talking to, like who is the client, who is the person you are talking to, and pretend that person is right in front of you. I think that always helps, and it helps you like convey that emotion in the way you're talking to them. You're not just reading a script on camera. It's you're having a conversation with them. They're just unfortunately not responding to you at the time.
I actually thought of another question. I'll share my thought process that went through here. You said like not reading off a script, and I recently saw an AI tool to where I could be looking off to the side at a script, and the AI will adjust my eyes so that makes it look like I'm looking at the camera.
Yeah,
and it's wild. So another question is, in the age of AI, how does that change your business? How has it impacted your business?
Yeah, it's funny that there's been so many conversations and posts and threads and stuff about how AI is going to ruin the music industry and stuff. And the reality is currently we're safe. AI music is pretty average. It will very, very quickly get better. But also there was a recent court ruling that basically said anything made with AI can't be copyrightable. So that's a good thing for us, because obviously you can't use that in film and TV because it has no copyright. But yes, it's definitely, there's just so much out there as well in terms of AI. I'm using AI technically in my music production. A lot of my mastering plugins and stuff use AI to listen to the sound and make adjustments, and I can go through and tweak it as I need. But I think there's so much that AI can help, not just music producers and artists and stuff, but even anybody. You've got like ChatGPT that could completely write you a calendar day by day, social media plan based off your business. You just have to tell it, this is what I do, this is my target audience, and this is who I am. Make me a calendar of social media content I should be posting 3 times a week, and it'll do a full write-up with it, and you've got all your ideas right there, and you just have to tailor them to your personal. Obviously you can't just go throwing off a script off AI because that's robotic. But you can tailor that and adjust it to suit your needs, and I think there's so much. I don't use it as much as I definitely could. I saw a post the other day, actually. It was about AI. Google Bard. I didn't even know Google Bard existed. But they were talking about how you can get it to analyze your social media profile, and it can tell you who your target audience is, what your content is, and if it's like, obviously scattered and it can't pick something, that's a pretty big red flag that you should be narrowing it down. And ideas of what you could be posting. Like there is a lot out there that is just incredibly powerful, especially for people who are trying to push social media and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I tried the Google Bard thing. It wouldn't work for some reason. I was probably doing something wrong. But yeah, I think there's just so much. The AI technology, has exponentially grown even just in the last 6 months. And it is almost dumb not to use it, to be honest. I think there's just so much value in it, and it's free. Like, you pay thousands to some social media marketing campaigner to write you up a schedule, where you can just do that using ChatGPT, and in a matter of minutes you've got your entire schedule ready to go, and you just need to make some minor tweaks. So yeah, I think dumb not to use it, which I'm dumb because I'm not using it. But yeah, it's definitely very valuable stuff. But in terms of like music production AI, yeah, I think I'm pretty safe for now. It's interesting.
Yeah, even with the platform that we're using right now, like after this, I can take the recording and use AI with a click of a button, and it'll remove any silences or any like repeating words that I want to remove just at the click of a button.
That's cool.
And then it can also like generate like 45-second to minute long short clips.
Yeah,
It'll
cool.
do like 5 to 10.
Yeah.
And obviously some of them it's like that's not a super great clip, but some of them are like spot on or pretty close. It just takes a couple of seconds for me to edit,
adjust it. Yeah.
And it's wild because it saves me so much time as the solo entrepreneur. So it really is that tool that is allowing maybe more power and time to get back to the people who want to use it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, it's like that mindset shift of, is it going to take our jobs? Instead of asking that question, it's how can it enhance my time?
Exactly.
So I can spend more time on what I want to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the bigger arguments, there's a lot of people freaking out about how AI is going to steal our jobs in terms of music production. But a lot of the big arguments is, instead of exactly that, thinking, how is it going to steal my job? How can this improve my job? How can this speed up my workflow? How can this take some of the things I'm spending hours on and turn it into a couple of minutes work? And so I can spend more time making good quality music. Because the reality is AI is not going to be able to create music that has the emotion that human people do, obviously. And so, yeah, I think we're always going to win in that aspect. And, that's what more and more people are looking for these days, as well as the, emotion behind the song. Even like there's a synth, synthesizer plugin that you can get, and you can basically put any sound into it. It could be like me going "but" or an actual synth sound or whatever, and it will recreate that based on what it's like, the waveform, and it'll go through, analyze it, recreate it, and it'll give you a couple of different options of what it kind of sounds like. And yes, some of the like people were like, this is crazy, but just the sound design aspect of that, being able to just take a sound that you really liked the sound of, but I want to be able to use that in a synth sort of a song aspect, and create a fully usable and adjustable. You can go through all the parameters and change bits and pieces if you wanted to, make it sound longer, make it sound shorter, make it sound whatever, and all with the click of a button. Drag the sample in and click a button and there's your sounds. Like, yeah, AI is just, it's insanely cool, some of the stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, humans, we're still winning.
Oh yeah,
we'll see in a year or two, but I like your optimism.
Yeah, I think we're definitely still winning. I mean, especially in the music side of things. I'm not sure, I mean, coaching again, you're talking to a person, you're talking to an emotional human sort of thing. So that is a lot of what helps with coaching, is the emotion behind what you're teaching. So you're not going to get that talking to some AI bot, Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're safe for now.
I think there was like a robot I think I saw in Japan maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, and they're like teaching it how to recognize emotions. And it was off for sure, but it was kind of like Yeah, but it's still getting close.
Yeah,
So I don't think
they
it'll be able to
are.
reflect emotion,
Yeah,
but it's like showing that emotion. It was
yeah,
getting pretty close.
yeah. Yeah, AI is definitely improving, and as you said, we'll see in a year or so what the world looks like. But I think yeah, we're safe for now. I saw it was a big show. It was an obituary written by AI, and it was hilarious. Just so many weird things. It was very funny. I'll send it to you once we finish. I'll see if I can find it. It was very funny.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. This was a fun
Pleasure.
conversation. I enjoyed it.
Likewise, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, until next time, my friend, I will see you later.